A joint press conference was held in Colombo yesterday by the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka in coordination with Colombo's other leading chambers and associations. The conference highlighted the challenges in accessing global markets and overcoming regulatory hurdles. President of the NCE, Jayantha Karnaratne, stressed on the pressing issues faced by the chamber's members.
Exports, especially the merchandise exports, are stagnant or maybe sometimes declining. If you look at last 20 years, we have been maintaining almost the same levels. So the economy or GDP has grown, but the exports have come down. The main reason we at the NCE finds is that we have inconsistent policies. From each government to government, they keep changing policies. The ministers keep changing policies. One of the main reasons why the investors or industries or exporters cannot plan for the future.
Secretary General of JAF, Johan Lawrence, highlighted on factors that could hinder future export potential.
Continued requirement for mandatory conversion of export proceeds into LKR. This requirement was brought in 2021 at the height of the foreign exchange crisis when Sri Lanka's foreign reserves were at dangerously low levels. This policy has been in place now for over 2 years, and the market situation that existed then has vastly improved. Our point, therefore, is that in this background, there is no requirement for the mandatory conversion to continue any further. Our call out is that the impact of this higher value of the Sri Lanka rupee will be seen not now, but in the next 8 to 9 months, because that is the lead time. And at that time, we'll all wonder why that was. And the reason is the artificially high Sri Lanka rupee.
Chairman of TEA, Ganesh Devanagam, argued that higher VAT on tea exports affect Sri Lanka's foreign exchange earnings.
We do very clearly understand the tax revenues of our country has to go up as advised by the IMF. However, value-added tax on a commodity like tea, where 87% is exported. We all know that because dollars were not available, how many homes were not having gas to cook, how many people had to stand in queues to get their fuel. It was purely because the dollars were not brought into the country enough. So because of this importance of foreign exchange earning capability of exports, exports are given a slight better chance for easy investment into their businesses. Now, because of the higher taxes, this has been taken away.
The chairman of SLSC, Sean Wendort, criticized the lack of the government's will for full digitalization in the industry.
Sri Lanka is fearful of digitalization. Successive governments do not have the drive and the vision to go totally digital. Right now, the pitiful situation is that we have to go and cow and bow to these officers who don't give two hoots what happens to the country, but only their personal gain. The government must have the political will to go 100% digital and also to ensure that a paperless environment is created.
Representing the rubber industry, Pushpika Janadira had this to say.
The Sri Lankan natural rubber production is reducing day by day. Now, if you look at this whole industry, we are competing in countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia. The Thailand and Indonesia having almost 30% of rubber production in each country. Vietnam also having around 26% of rubber production. But Sri Lanka having rubber production only less than 1%. But all the big brands, all the giants in Sri Lanka, there is a big mismatch, which is going to have a big issue of the sustainability of the industry.
Chairman of the EASL, Ranil Gunathilaka, spoke about the factors that could support to boost exports significantly.
If exports are to be a significant contributor to the GDP, Sri Lanka needs to do things differently. Currently, we have done nothing. We are not focused aggressively on growing exports. 3 areas that I want to highlight is: 1, the implementation of a national export strategy. Then second point, free trade agreements. Third point that I want to bring out is the lack of support for SMEs. So we need to address these concerns if we are serious in growing exports. Otherwise, we'll be at the same level that we are.
Chairman of SLASCON, Jehan Perinpanagam, focused on Sri Lanka's IT industry goals for the future.
Industry goals are ambitious. We want to be $5 billion in export revenue earnings by 2030. In fact, the President in his address to Parliament felt that we could even better that. It is definitely possible because our neighbor India is doing over $200 billion, Philippines is doing $30 billion. So this has immense potential. If we are to achieve our full potential as the IT BPM industry of Sri Lanka, we need to step up. We need to prioritize on country branding, talent retention and fast-tracking some of these legislation.
The press conference was attended by industry personnel and other stakeholders.